Like to call this facilities meeting of the Lambertsville Unified School District to order at 6:30. Just a reminder, we would appreciate it if you turn off or silence your cell phone at this time. Roll call, please.
David Pombo.
Here.
Colin Clements.
Here.
Jimmy Legrand. Here. Thorsten Harrison.
Here.
Caroline Davila.
Here.
Lisa Boulay.
Absent.
Receiving of public comments.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and committee members.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to try to get some information about signing up through your reservation system, and I understand it's not open yet. I'm trying to reserve a fairly large room on 3 occasions. It's on behalf of the library. They have some I don't know if I'm going to call it entertainment, but they have some presentations, and they attract a crowd. It could be up to 200 people. And so, as you know, our library is closed. They have used the library before, even though it was a little too tight in there for that kind of a crowd. But the librarian has arranged for these events. And I'm not here to ask for a fee waiver or any of that. I'm just here to see if it's possible to open the reservation system so that we can reserve these 3 nights. One is June 20, one's June 25, and one is July 16. And so we're, the only thing is we would like to be able to get in there so she can tell her vendors if she's sure that she's going to have a place for this to be held. And if not, she may cancel. I don't know, but we're just looking to see if this is an option for us.
Would you like to field that?
Sure. We have the dates. We gave the dates to the principal of the high school. He is currently setting up dates in our civic permits for school events, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
The civic permits opens on June 1st. Is June 1st too late to be able to make a decision for the event on the 20th?
I don't know, Thor, but I will ask Kathleen. I'll just see we'll just do the best we can.
Okay, and I have not heard back from Mr. Faubert yet because he's still, he's doing all the dates for all the activities at the high school. So,
And it doesn't have to be the high school. It could be any facility you think is large enough to accommodate that kind of a crowd.
okay.
What was the times?
Okay, on June 20, it's and they each take about 2 hours. It would be at 2:00, but I realize they'd have to go in and set up and then clean up. So I'm going to say 4 hours. So on June 20th, starting at 1 p.m., on June 25, starting at 3 p.m., and on July 16th, starting at 3 p.m.
And you said 200 people?
Well, she said one of those might attract that many. I think typically it's 100. We just have to plan for the biggest crowd.
Or NPRs?
Yeah, we could find a spot.
Seems like we should be able to, we have a lot of multi-purpose rooms, so surely not all of them are going to be used, but is there any way we can crash the critical path and respond faster than June 1st?
When is our primary basketball time for those facilities?
Most of them practice in the evenings.
So you said 4 hours?
I think that would accommodate the entire event from,
It's like an hour setup, hour cleanup type thing.
yes.
The event's only 2 hours.
So 3 to 7. I think we would have to look at what we received today from our athletic teams that use our facilities and look at if we could have some time to look at that. If this group's okay with that.
I'm not asking the district to make a decision faster than they can. I'm just asking us to make a decision as quickly as we can.
And if you could, if you wouldn't mind shooting Associate Superintendent Harrison an email with the exact times and dates in case he wrote something down wrong or we misunderstood something, that would be helpful, I think.
I think I have the dates. I'm not sure if I have the time span.
I think you have the times, but
Do I?
it may not have included the hour before and the hour after.
Okay,
So I'll just enhance that, okay?
okay. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Christine. I am the director of Mohustle AAU basketball. I have 3 items that I'd like to ask today. The first was kind of a rollover from the meeting we just had. I know you said it's closed for just 2 weeks right now, but for some reason, I'm feeling like it's 4, and maybe I'm not understanding correctly. The permitting system or the civics permit system stops letting us rent at May 12. So from what I understand, I don't have any gym time May 12 through now. The very first day you asked for was June 18. So that feels like a month for us. Is that accurate?
No, the first day you could is June 3rd, not the 18th.
That's the first day we can start
For summer?
recording? Yeah,
June 3rd.
June 3rd, okay.
Mhm.
Because I thought it said June 18 on her.
It's on Monday, I believe, June 3rd.
Okay, June 3rd. So if I didn't put those dates in, I can just send her an email to revise that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Send it to Aria, please.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing we touched on briefly about opening the outdoor courts. I know that was something that you guys said you would talk about for future, but it's kind of a crisis situation for our organization. I'm new here, and I did not know that there was these closures. I thought it would open in May 12th, and we would just go ahead and we might be a couple days down, but I didn't realize that we'd have these 2 weeks of closures. We are part of Adidas Gauntlet, and that's a very large circuit for kids that are trying to get seen by the NCAA, like colleges. We have an event Memorial Day weekend that we all travel to. It costs about $15,000 for us all to go. We've been sponsored by Adidas to go. I have 5 teams going. We don't have anywhere to practice. That's my fault. I didn't quite plan for that. And like I said in our facilities meeting, I haven't even entertained Tracy gyms or any other gyms. We use Mountain House gyms. We want the money to go back into our schools. So I was here to ask for special consideration to use the outdoor courts at Mountain House High School, 6 to maybe 8, maybe those 2 hours, 3 days a week until the facilities are back up and running for us so that our children can organize. It's very difficult to take 5 teams and spread out through the parks. We dominate the facility, and then the kids can't play. I can rent through the Parks and Rec department, or I think it's CUSD, and they're very accommodating in renting a Central Park, but that's 1 court, and it really breaks my heart when we are on that court for practice, and the kids want to play, and I can't allow them to even play because of our insurance, and so I don't want to use that as, I don't want to take over that 1 court at that park that's very popular for basketball. So I don't think anybody utilizes Mountain House at all. I know the Cuestas, the Wickland, they do outdoor. People show up and use it because it's part of the Park and Recs, but I don't think anybody is using Mountain House. So I don't think it would affect anybody. So I don't know how to put a special request in for something like that.
I believe that's something that staff is already looking into. Is that correct?
Yes, not in the short term that I think you're indicating you want to,
Yeah, we need somewhere
like
right
tomorrow or as soon as possible is what you're
away.
looking
Monday, if at all possible.
for. Right, so she's looking for more
We don't want to
immediacy.
negatively impact the community by showing up to all these courts, 5 teams, 12 kids. We'll get complaints that we're out there. So if we could just get consideration for these next, 2 weeks until the facilities are open, we'll do a better job planning next year.
So the problem with that plan is also that we don't, the last 2 weeks of school, bless you, the last 2 weeks of school, we don't rent the facilities. So there's kind of 2 pieces of our procedures that are going against what she wants to do. So
especially at the high school.
And everybody is, you know, you have the Tracy Spartans, the Royal Kings, and the Wolverines right now practicing at Cuesta. Everybody's kind of picked a school, and so they're already out there practicing. And I mean, we could just get in where we fit in and drive around, but that's not very, you know, it's not professional to present to our kids. It's not, you know, it's not the preference. So I'm trying to find a solution.
High schools, they have the graduation practices, they have the senior end of the year activities.
Well, one of the other things is we don't even have a fee structure for the outdoor facilities on how we would charge for it in our handbook or in our procedure.
I would be willing to table that and whatever you guys come up with deem fair and sign something that says, I'll pay it when you do. If you would loan us the facilities until you do come up to the fee structure, paying's not the issue at all for us. I've been driving through there daily during those hours. I've never seen anybody in 6 months on those courts. They're just not being used. They're nice courts.
I don't know, I'm not certain that the last 2 weeks of high school with all the stuff that's going on at the high school is a good place to experiment with this.
I would be willing to even say day to day. If it didn't work out, you say, sorry, can't do it tomorrow. I only am asking for 3 days.
For me, your time span is so short of wanting an answer right now, and I feel like I have questions that aren't able to be answered right now. If we're looking for an answer tonight, I don't have one to give.
Yeah,
I feel like I don't know what I don't know yet. I don't know what activities are happening.
We can wait a couple
Structure thing,
days.
I have no idea how that would play out. And you're wanting something by like Monday, right?
I mean, in a perfect world, but we have 2 or 3 weeks that we don't have things, you know, space for our kids. You know, if we even got 1 day where we could all utilize, I mean, we're in a position where we're asking for help, whatever you guys can offer and come up with. I'm just asking that somebody take a look at this for us.
I'm kind of in the same boat. You know, I'm a staunch neoconservative, bleeding heart liberal, and you know, so I want to help, but I also don't want to provide an answer that's in contravention of what's in the best interest of the district. So I'm kind of similar, you know, with the answer on the CSD. I'm like, well, you know, can we give an answer? You know, they want basketball courts. Well, we have some, and some aren't being used, and maybe all, or some might not be being used, but I don't know that.
And I think Ben's, you said, is out of town, so he probably would be the one to know how much of an impact that would have on the school.
I'm not sure what this committee can do for you. I am fine with letting staff see if there's a solution to be had and going from there. And if there isn't a solution to be had, then the answer is sorry.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. There is one.
Okay. All right, we can look at it, but I'm saying right now there's 3 things going against this.
Right.
2 weeks, and it's the high school, the fee structure, and other people wanting to do the same thing with their groups,
Yeah.
which we haven't allowed. You know,
Right,
so
not necessarily the basketball courts, but just the idea in general.
yeah, and that's a new thing, the outdoor basketball courts, which I don't think we've considered before as a group, and I don't believe it's in our handbook.
Yeah,
It's
So-
not yet.
they're back behind the small gym, right? Or
It's behind the CTE building. Yeah.
And just to touch on that outdoor court situation, the why it's a really good idea for all of us in the community with basketball. It doesn't necessarily take away from the funds you get from the indoor courts, but it does allow us especially in the warmer months, to help more kids who can't necessarily afford. We can lower our rates because we can go one day in, one day out. You know, there's never going to be a shortage of people wanting to get in your gyms, but it does help us be able to reach more kids.
And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm afraid the ultimate answer this time is going to be no, because of the fact that it's last minute or maybe a little after last minute, and we don't have the policies or procedures in place that would allow such a thing to occur. So I'm just going to be honest with you and tell you that from where I'm looking at it, the likelihood is not very great at all. But if staff can come up with a solution, then.
And point two to that, I know that sometimes you could put a special request in for gym time, even though it's closed or it's a holiday. Not knowing again that there was these closures. We have a guy flying out. He's a former NBA player, and he was coming out to train the kids, and it was going to be something free I did for the whole community on June 1, 6 to 9. And we don't have a place for him either. And so I'm wondering if there's any facility or any school that would let us open the gym up from 6 to 9 just for that. And like I said, it is free for everybody in the community.
Are the tennis courts in the policy?
I believe so.
Tennis courts?
Yeah, I think
No,
Oh, really?
I don't think so.
that's something else we have to do. Are they? Oh, thank
Never
you.
mind, sorry.
Thank you, Alvina.
Yeah.
The June 1st request, I think if she put a request in writing with the day and time that, and gave that to this group, I think that we could, I think that would align with the procedure in the facilities handbook.
Because it's outside of the
Right, because it's outside of the,
school year.
right.
So on the June 1st issue, if you give this body a request in writing, I think we can probably be worked out with staff for you.
We do have outside basketball courts on there. Right there.
It's just not, it's available, it looks like, to rent on civic permits, but I just don't think it works. I don't think anybody honestly has ever tried to rent them because they can utilize through the parks, the courts. Personally, I would prefer to have a permit and rent them so that I don't show up and they're either in use or the gates are locked. I like to make sure I'm planning for our kids.
Understood. So, so the rate issue or the policy allowing so it is in the policy and there is a rate for it.
Correct, sir. I was
and
wrong.
I was like, man,
I can't
sworn
find
there
it
was
anywhere, I don't know.
so
Thank God we're recording this.
I think June 1, like, is an easier,
But that's an indoor facility request.
right. But I think, Pombo, where you were at was, we would be supportive if the district can actually accommodate it as an exception, but we just can't promise that, and it's an outside shot given because it's not like district staff right now, they've got a lot on their plate. And so asking them to think through this is, they're trying to get kids graduated, they're trying to close out the school year. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, so it's not that we're not sympathetic to the issue, but I just,
Oh, if there's a rate and a chance and Ben approves it, whatever you guys can do. Again, I'm throwing myself at your mercy.
thank you.
I have one last thing. This one's more interesting, and I brought documentation, but I only brought one because I didn't realize it was a panel. The demographic in Mountain House is changing. I didn't know where to start, so I'm starting here. We have a lot of older boys that we don't have anything for them to do in the summer. We don't have anything for them to do in the evenings. And we've seen increase of kids getting in trouble, increase of parties in our neighborhoods where parents are gone or working late. I wanted to ask if there was, what I'm presenting is what is called midnight basketball, and it's open to the community. It does not have anything to do with me, any other organization. It's actually through the Midnight Basketball League. What it does is allows kids to come up with their own team of 5, 6, or 7, and they play a 6-week series every Friday night or Saturday night between the bewitching hours of when they could possibly be getting in trouble. I've talked to a few police officers who are willing to walk the parking lot at Mountain House High School free of charge and be involved. I've talked to a few of the custodians who are willing to work those hours if they are asked. I have coaches and a lot of male influence that want to be there and do this with the kids. I would like to start here because the hours, you said in the meeting that it's open till midnight at the high school. Midnight basketball in theory is 8 to 2 a.m. I think that's a little late. I was looking more like 8 to 1 a.m. I brought a schedule of what that would look like, and I also brought some documentation of the history of midnight basketball and why it's important, and the link to the organization which I would utilize to run something like that. It's something that we would let the teams very minimal charge because we have to cover referees. So like you get to participate for 6 weeks. It might be $25 for your team. That goes to pay the official referees because it is still basketball. You want to make sure there's no squabbles on the court. We would set up a snack shack, and that would cover the fees to rent from you guys. Unless you guys were willing to give us those hours for free, then we could make it free because we'd use our snack shack to cover our referees. Just so you know, referees charge upwards of $25, $35 an hour. So to put something like that together, it will take a lot of community support. The officers, the coaches from multiple programs, by the way, some of the coaches that were in here yelling at me earlier, they're all involved. They would like to be involved. I think it's a really great thing to bring our basketball community together as a whole because there is some division. Can I approach?
Sure.
So this is, I'm sorry I only brought one, but this is kind of the history of midnight basketball. It started with Bill Clinton when he was in office. He did anti-crime prevention, and it's hit or miss in whichever community.
Why don't you give us the documents and speak over there so the public can hear you?
Sorry.
That way everybody hears what you're saying. Thank you. Okay.
So the first is the history of midnight basketball. It started with Bill Clinton and his wife when they tried to do anti-crime prevention things in communities. We're not a high crime or at-risk community yet, but our demographic is changing. So being proactive to get the boys involved in something through the summer, and girls, by the way, I think is a great start to keeping our community peaceful and happy. The hours generally are late evenings so that there's something for them to do besides being at home on the PlayStation or walking around the town, getting in trouble or having parties. And like I said, I do have the volunteers needed to keep everything kind of under control. I think that hours would be a concern, so I wanted to start here to see if that's even approved. If not, maybe we can adjust to end by midnight and still be able to call it midnight basketball. And that's pretty much it. I don't know if I have to go somewhere else for approval on something like that, but
The way it would work is you would bring a proposal to this committee. We would look at it, discuss it, ask questions, so on and so forth, try to come up with a recommendation for the board as to whether, and to be honest with you, this sounds like a great program, but the times you're requesting, you're being way too optimistic. There's no way that we could come up with anything that would, I don't believe, and I'll, the rest of the committee can chime in if they like, but this is something that I believe the planning of would probably take months rather than days, weeks. you know, so I don't think it's gonna work for this summer, maybe.
If we kept the scope from 8 to midnight, because the high school is open with custodial staff till midnight, and we gave it a trial run on either a Friday or a Saturday, is that something the committee would consider? So we could see what something like this does?
Well, if from my perspective, I'm happy to consider something, but I can't, like, this sounds like a great thing. I literally would want some time to think about it as an individual board member, like, because we would need, you know, we would need to have district staff there at that time. There's a lot more to it, and this is enough of a departure from what we do that I think both Pombo, Trustee Pombo and I feel that it would be something that we would do a recommendation and take to the board as a whole. And before I do that, I'd want some time to think on it.
On the other hand, if this is something, and I will admit, I'm not familiar enough with civic permits to know all the ins and outs of civic permits, but if this is something that you could apply for through civic permits and satisfy all the requirements through civic permits, then this committee nor the board would really have to approve anything. It's just something that a nonprofit would be doing if it satisfies all of the requirements of civic permits and current board policy and facilities, procedures and policies and all those things. So that it's kind of a two-headed thing. If you're just asking to use the facilities, well, we have the facilities permits system set up that you can apply, and if you are within the parameters of that, then
Yeah, I'd learned today that they were open to midnight, and so that's where I kind of, but with Thor, I would ask you, because you're the school district, is that something that the school would want on their campus? Do I talk to Ben, or does, you know, I don't want to do something that might disrupt the school or the community.
I don't know at this juncture because this is new just now.
Okay.
It would take some discussions, you know, with the school site and
I confess, I didn't know that we actually rented facilities out until midnight.
We don't.
No, the custodian is there until midnight.
But
Where's the midnight coming from, Christine?
The custodial staff works 3 to midnight at the high school.
they have
Wait,
that's
you
their
were-
job.
You were under the impression that they were rentable till midnight?
Well, that's what I took away from the meeting earlier when you said the custodians were there till midnight, but now I'm understanding they're only rentable till 10, but the custodian is on.
During the school year, they work 3 to midnight at the high school. Not during the summer, during the school year.
So then I guess I would,
Permit, she would see the ability to rent until 10 o'clock.
I think it's 10, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which then it does kill the program because all of the other organizations are in there for their practices until 9, 10 o'clock. So
I agree with you that it's such a departure,
Yeah,
that you would want this to be agendized.
and I would want some time to think about it. And I think it's, you know, at first blush, I understand what we're trying to do, help the community, help the kids. Love that idea, but can't shoot from the hip. I don't feel, I could not shoot from the hip on something like that.
It's a really
just-
cool idea, but I agree.
I'm not certain, I know the tennis courts at Central Park are lit. Are the basketball courts as well?
yes, sir. They're on a timer. They turn off at 10.
So it might be something that,
You wouldn't want to do something like that in an uncontained environment because it is ultimately our responsibility to keep an eye on these children from 10 to midnight or 10 to 2. I wouldn't want them roaming the park. I wouldn't want them to have access to locked bathrooms. I wouldn't want.
What ages do you consider?
The program itself is age 14 to 25. I don't think that it's conducive to have adults with our children, and I'm not going to open up to children outside of Mountain House at least the first year or two until we can kind of see the impact on our school, our parking lots, the safety issues. I wouldn't want kids from other communities coming, might have beef or something with our students. I want this to be a safe and productive, safe place. So, you know, it would be something I'd want to do slowly. So even if we only got 2 weeks in at the end of the school, end of the summer to test the theory, it is something that is near and dear to my heart because when I was growing up, I attended to watch my boyfriend play. It was kept us all out of trouble, and so a lot of our coaches also grew up in midnight basketball. So even if it's only till midnight, however, my concern with it being till midnight is there's still things open until 1 and 2 in the morning. The idea is to keep them contained until everything's closed at night. Stores, there's no reason for them to, drive to Tracy, or, you keep them contained until bedtime. And you want to, like I said, keep them in a single gym and have adult presence and monitoring where they feel like it's all them, it's on their own. Parents don't come watch the games, it's all for kids. It's all being supervised. So it's freedom with a leash, kind of. And there's nothing to do. My son's 16 and he just sits home and then he's like, oh, there's a party over here. I'm like, yeah, you're not going to that. So, just trying to find an outlet for our guys. I know a lot of the boys stay up to Central till 10 and then they walk home, but.
Well, I think we all like the idea in theory, but I think we need more information and more of a proposal rather than just an idea before we could move forward with it.
I don't know really what to do here. Do I request to be on the agenda or do I submit the proposal? I've never made a proposal before, so what do you need outside the scope of what I just gave you? What more would you like? I can get the ball rolling for you guys.
I would be happy if I could take this document to take it and write a series of questions. Realize those aren't going to be all the questions because we only have one copy, but to give you an idea of the kinds of questions that need to be answered in a proposal. It is a shift from what we do, and none of us are here saying we don't want to do it. We're just saying, man, this is different enough from what we do as a district that, who's going to be there, when are they going to be there, how are they going to,
Yeah, I didn't even know where to start. I just figured getting gym time first is the first start because I got the police, I got the coaches, the volunteers, next gym. Then I would assume I took it to the real district.
Unfortunately, if you wanted to do, if you wanted to do it during hours and reserve it during civic permits, it would be a no-brainer. Then you'd get the time and you could figure out if the thing worked. But what you're asking us to do is is to do something different, than, the janitors, yes, custodians are here until midnight, but they have other things that they're not there during the summer, right, till midnight, but they're there not just for facility rental.
Right.
They're there to get the school ready for the next day for education. So if we usurp all of their time right at the end for facilities, even if this was during a Friday during the week or during the school year, then that's a concern. That's something that we would have to think through. So that's why it's unfortunately, I understand it feels like the chicken or the egg, but in order for us to consider a program that's that much of a departure, we have to have answers.
Yeah.
And so I'm willing to take this and write some questions, to kind of give you an idea of what at least one committee member, wants to see. But
Anywhere I can start. My kid's got 3 more years here as a teenager, and it could be,
is the committee okay with that?
Yeah, I think so. I can, or you can, one of us can take it and scan it and
I will.
send a copy to the rest of the committee so we can all take a look at it.
Staff can do that. We can make copies and send it around.
I felt bad asking for staff time.
Oh, no.
Just
Anytime.
I'm like, I understand she doesn't know where to go next, and I'm trying to be helpful without taking staff time.
would you like me to
Or
write
is
my
very-
contact information there? Or
Please.
Yes, okay.
Please.
Or is very liberal with Jimmy's time.
No, how about on that one right there?
Give it to Jimmy.
We can do that. Here. District employee, yeah.
Not my bag.
And do I need to do anything further for the June one? Where do I request that? Just send an email? Aria, that's it?
For June 1st for,
6 to 9 for the pro to come out for training?
yeah, put it in writing. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think the rest of the people who are going to make comments will make them during the information and discussion item. Is that correct? All right. Moving on then, facilities use update. Staff?
The first item is the facilities use minutes for approval from the 7th, sorry, February 7th.
Yep. No comments or questions from me.
They look good.
All right.
Finance report.
Alvina?
Page 4 of 16 is a report ending April 30th, 2019, but I did add, under the encumbrance column, the governing board approved a purchase for the athletic fields, and so I wanted to make sure that that encumbrance came out from the final balance, which is in the far right-hand column.
Thank you. Facility usage reports from,
Can I add one more item to that, to the
Yes,
finance
certainly.
report? If you'll notice, Chelsea, did you mention the encumbrances for the or
The field,
soccer stuff?
Yes, for the
Okay.
athletic fields.
Perfect,
yes.
thank you. She mentioned it, thanks.
thank you. Facility usage reports, January 31 through May 8.
Okay, oops, I'll go through them page by page. Lammersville hourly report is the first document. You can see the hourly usage and the number of events for that time period. The next page is Altamont facility use, and it's broken down by tier, the track, the softball field, the small grass field, the multipurpose room, and then classroom use. That's broken out by hours of use, and the bar graph moving from left to right. And then Bethany has the same structure, and baseball field use and multipurpose room use are the most used items in that between January 31st and May 8th. And then Lammersville facility use, softball field and the multipurpose room. And then we have the high school with a myriad of use, a variety of rooms, a variety of facilities. It has it by hour and by tier in the bar graph moving from left to right. And once again, the theater and classroom use is the highest.
Didn't realize the theater got quite that much use.
Well, we had quite a few performances and a lot of practice. And the drama production team was in their building, so nobody could use the facility because they were building sets and getting them set up, so.
Very good. Nice to see it's getting used.
Yes. And then one of the things that we changed at this time, Jen was courteous enough to create a spreadsheet for that same bar chart. So it shows it a little in a different breakout, and it's a little easier to see the total hours on the far right side, and then the different groups that use the different facilities.
I like that.
Yeah, you like that better? Okay. Good job, Jen. The high school obviously has the most use, so it was helpful to have a document like that. And then Cuesta facility is next, with the multi-purpose room being used the most, followed by the soccer field and the baseball field. And then Wickland follows with the multi-purpose room being used by far the most, followed by the soccer fields, 1 and 2, or 2 and 3. And that is all the facility usage charts that we have.
Yep.
Questions or comments from the committee?
None here, sir.
All right. Moving on to denied applications.
So on page 13 of 16, we have the rejected or denied applications and the reason, along with the accommodation. As we've said in the past, we try to accommodate groups with alternatives as available. They're not always available. So that is the list of the different groups and their rejections and then their approved alternative sites.
Questions or comments?
No, sir.
Reimbursements.
On page 13, we have our reimbursements, only 4 this time, security deposits, and then 1 credit from a canceled permit.
No questions.
You? Moving on to information and discussion items. Park and Ride, LUSD, CSD.
Anush Nahed is here from the CSD.
Yes, good evening. My name is Anush Najad. I'm the Deputy Director with Mountain House Community Services District. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak with you. I have a short presentation for you about a request for a temporary park and ride facility on the Mountain House High School on Tradition Street. Next slide, please. So we're requesting a temporary use of your facility at the Mountain House High School. So there are about 23 spaces on the back side. And we hope to be able to use that for a transit service that we have recently, or RTD has recently established between Mountain House and the Vasco A station. So this will help our commuters. We will enter into an agreement with the school district in terms of the use of the facility. And then if you would like us to install any signs to tell the commuters about the use of the facility or liability associated with that, we'll be very happy to do that. Next slide. So I have a few slides for you. First of all, the service to the Vasco A station started on May 6th. This was a request that was made by a lot of our residents. We had a transportation forum back in November, and we had a lot of residents who came to the meeting, and they asked for a direct transit service between Mountain House and Vasco Station. And RTD agreed to do that. They started the operation just last week, a couple of weeks now, and it is now on Tradition Street. Next slide. So what currently we have is a service that goes in the morning at 6:40 in the a.m. It connects to 1 train. And in the evening, we have 2 trips from the A station back to Mountain House. And but we hope to expand that. We hope to expand it to, there are 4 trains in the morning and 4 trains in the evening. So we hope to be able to expand the service. Right now, we're getting about 16 riders that use this service, but we hope to increase that ridership. Next slide. So in order to begin this operation, actually one of our residents by the name of Robbie Thomas, he did a survey of some of the commuters that commute to the South Bay and to Pleasanton. And with that survey, we uncovered that there will be about 60 of our residents that will be interested to take this service. So this is very encouraging. If we can get 60 people off their vehicles on a transit and then on the train, that would be a really good accomplishment. So based on that survey, we hope to be able to get 60 passengers to use this service. Next slide. Now, we also asked the passengers how they would like to come to this stop. About 1/3 of them, they've said that they would like to have a park and ride facility. So they would be able to come over there, park their vehicle, take the transit, and go to the A station. About 10% they said they would bike to the place, and others they indicated that about 40% they would walk to the station because they're very close to the bus stop. So based on that, I think we have about 33% of the group who would like to park their vehicles, okay? So next slide. So based on that, we're proposing this area that I'm showing here on this aerial photo, which is shown in yellow, the proposed park and ride. So there are about 23 spaces right now, which has been marked. This is a little bit older photo. We hope to be able to basically use one of the rows initially, and if we need to, we can use the other rows. So the total on the two sides is about 23 spaces. The bus stop is located on Tradition, where I have shown in the blue identification there. And we also plan to put a shelter there and some bicycle racks. So we're going to provide all of the amenities for the travelers to be able to come over there and park their vehicle, wait for the bus, and also have a place to store their vehicles or their bicycles when they get to their location. Yes.
The shelter and the bicycle racks will be located on the sidewalk or the...
It will be located right behind the sidewalk. Okay. Yes. So it's
on the high school.
Not on the high school. Right where I'm showing in the green, the shelter and the bicycle rack will be right there, right behind the sidewalk. Exactly. So
What the morning bus pickup is what time?
the morning, right now, the service begins at 6:45, but if we can expand the service, the first one will be at 4:30 in the morning. Okay, next slide. So this is the photo. Actually, there is really nobody using that area right now, so I think it would be an ideal location for what we're proposing. Again, we're going to start with the one row of those parking stalls, and if we need to, we can expand to the other side. And again, we can put up the signs and make sure that we follow any of the rules and requirements that you have in terms of signing an agreement with you. Next slide. And this is where the transit stop will be located, and the shelter will be located on that side of Tradition Street. So we think it's a really good location to service the entire community. It's central to Mountain House. One of the reasons that people ask for this location, because it's central, more people will be able to get to that. Initially, we had it on Wickland Park area, but everybody felt that's too far away, so they wanted the location to be central. And the reason that we're asking this to be temporary, we're also working with some of our developers to have a permanent park and ride facility close to 205. So hopefully when that happens, we probably won't need this at that time. So for meanwhile, we feel that if we can get this park and ride facility, it will really help our commuters. Next slide. So as I indicated, right now, the service right now we have is at 6:45. Your gates open about 6 o'clock in the morning. But if we are successful to increase the ridership, we probably would like to have that gate to be open at 4:15 in the morning, which means that there will be some additional cost for somebody to come open the gate, the way that I understand it. But we also hope that you waive any cost associated with that person coming in to open up the gate. So our request is basically for you to grant the use of the facilities, and then hopefully you can also waive the cost on us.
I have one question
Yes.
for you, and then I will have a whole bunch for staff. Other than people's desire to have a central location, is there a reason that you're not using the parking at the CSD facility?
Yes, obviously, because we want to have the bus stop right here, central to Mountain House. So this is the best location. The one at CSD, first of all, we don't own the facility right now. It's a Trimark building. And secondly, again, the people, when we surveyed them, they wanted something central. And they felt that this location would best suited to be able to serve everybody.
You mentioned that it's Trimark. Do you guys not rent the
We rent it,
parking lot
but
from
we
them?
don't own that parking area, yes.
Are they not allowing you to use the
Well,
parking for
you know,
a-
we can discuss it with them, but really it doesn't help us in terms of where the location of the stop should be. The location of the stop really is at this location.
Well, only because that's where you want it to be, because it's nothing right now. For staff, does their proposal fit all of our facility handbook requirements as far as, I know we have language about parking lot rentals and all those things?
Well, I think we would need a proposal like we received about the pool use when we waived some fees there in partnership with CSD and the pool. I think we would need a similar agreement that is drawn up as a request from CSD and then brought to the board like we did with the pool agreement and go that route. I think that's how we would have to approach it.
When we say, it says temporary,
Yes.
but I hear that we're going to be working with developers to see if we can do one near 205. And, you know, so if that doesn't work, basically, how temporary is this?
Well, we hope that we can continue to use this probably for about 3 years. Because that development probably is not going to materialize for another couple of years. By the time they build it, it will be about 3 years.
I understand it's supposed to come same time as the Safeway.
Well, Safeway is going to come very soon, Harvey, we hope.
And which is right after the herd of unicorns run. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so to start off with, you want it. How early do you want the access to start off with?
To begin with right now, we want to be able to have people to park there by maybe about 6 o'clock in the morning. The first shuttle is 6:45. So usually people will probably show up about 6:15 or 6:30 to get that 6:45 shuttle. So right now your gates open at 6 o'clock. So I think we don't need anything from you. But if we are successful, and we hope we will be, and that's one of the reasons we're talking to you, then we probably need the gate to be opened earlier.
Which brings my next question of staff. Logistically, what will that do to have the gate open at 4 or 4:15 or?
We don't have anyone there that early. The earliest we have someone there is 6.
So logistically, we have to have somebody there earlier.
Someone have to be there at 4.
Do we have
4:15.
do we have a sense of, like, I'm not worried about, like, because I'm assuming that if the parking lot was full on a daily basis right now, district staff would have already said, yeah, that's not going to work at all. Do we have a sense of because we're not fully, we don't have all the students we're ever going to have in the high school, so we're growing too. Do we have a sense of what is there even availability for 3 years of that, even though it's available now, even if it's available now, do we have a sense of whether it will be in 3 years? Because that's the commitment that they're looking for, pretty much at a minimum.
What I can say is we have a large parking lot for a high school. I have a lot of high school experience, as you guys know. I don't think in 3 years that high school, the population will fill up that back lot.
Okay.
I don't think that's an issue.
Okay.
I do have one other issue, if you don't mind. The waiver of fees for that custodian in the morning would end up costing us about $16,000 a year, because we'd have to pay somebody overtime to open the gate each morning.
I would not be comfortable recommending to the board that we eat $16,000 a year to get the gate open earlier. I don't know if there's some other way to.
My thought on that, with the ridership that you're projecting, I don't see that justifying for 60 riders. I don't see us taking 16,000 out of what could go to our students for 60 people to,
Right.
Get off the freeway, which is a good idea, but I don't feel like that's enough.
Let me propose this. We will begin with the current schedule, which opens at 6 o'clock. And then we'll see what happens. And if we do get a lot of riders coming in and we do get requests for earlier park and ride facility, then we can discuss it internally to see there could be a cost sharing. But right now, if we can just get the permission to use the area of from 6 o'clock onward, that will help us.
Well, I'm fine, assuming everything gets addressed, I'm fine with having something from 6 on, but as far as a cost-sharing thing, I don't really see myself being in favor of it costing the school district anything. If we don't charge you guys rent for something that doesn't cost us anything, then I don't have a problem with that. But whether it's 16,000 or 8,000 or 4,000 or whatever it is, that's money meant for books, not for us to pay a custodian for someone else's benefit. As far as the rest of it goes, and I'm sure staff is on top of this, but we would need legal liability, all that stuff addressed, because if someone goes and breaks all the windows in the cars while they're parked there, I don't want the school district having to defend the school district in claims for those losses or whatever. That would have to be something that would be addressed through the CSD's insurance coverage or something, because that's not something that we should bear the burden of.
Yeah, we agree. I think that we will execute an agreement. We can also put up the sign. Typically, the signs you put up is that park at your own risk and commuter parking only within these hours. And then, those who choose to park over there, they're parking at their own risk.
Currently, I'm not, irrespective of this proposal, if somebody parks in the high school parking lot and let's say they go to dinner with a friend and they forget to come back and get their car and it's time for custodians to leave, they lock it up so the car is there overnight because,
Yes.
okay, and that same thing would be true of people that park, if we did this and they park there and they don't get back in time, they're locked in and they don't get their car.
We understand. And we can put that information on the sign, and you're parking from this time to this time only, and the gate will be closed. And we can design the sign approved by the school district to make sure that we have all of this information on the sign, parking at their own risk, and when the gate will close. So they have all of that information right there.
And from my personal view is, we would need to have those cars have some sort, whether it's cost the people or it's just given to them, some sort of a permit, parking permit to park on the high school, because I don't want the high school to become the local open house for parking. Because you'll have, the people riding the rideshare bus, but if it becomes known that you can park there, then we'll have everybody who carpools to work or whatever they're doing parking at the high school, and I can see that parking lot filling up with everybody because
That's true. If people do park and ride on their own, then your 26 spaces, if we don't have some sort of decal, those 26 or whatever spaces could get taken up by me and Pombo deciding to ride to work together, for lack of a better example, and then you wouldn't have any benefit. So I hear that I think that's a good idea.
And I would also like to hear concerns from staff about just having general public accessing the high school in general.
So I have a couple questions and a statement. Is that okay?
Certainly.
The bus that would come pick them up does not come onto campus proper, right? It picks them up on
Opposite side of this.
On opposite side.
the opposite side of the
Yes.
street, right? So they're not on campus.
Yes.
Maybe a statement. All those cars under penal code and ed code, we have a right to search. and that public probably needs to know that
Okay.
because they're on school grounds. So we don't have to have cause. Well, we have to have probable suspicion, which is different than others need. So they would probably need to know if they're parking on those premises that we have a right to search their vehicle. So if somebody happens to be doing something wrong or illicit, we actually, as a staff, do have a right to search the vehicle. So they would probably need to know that.
One of the things I can discuss internally with our GM and our permits department, maybe we can issue permits. And with the permits, we have all of this information. And we tell this to the transit riders. If they want to come and park over there, they need to come to CSD, pull a permit, and put that permit on their vehicle. And then you would know who is parking there for the transit ridership or anybody else that just comes over there and park. Right now, anybody really can come and park unless you do what you're describing. It's pretty much open. You know, the gate is open. Anybody can come and park over there. So, but these people potentially can pull a permit from us, no fee permits, just put it on their vehicles so we know that they're parking over there.
You know, technically, people can't just park there because we require permits for
Okay.
our teachers and our students.
Okay?
So if if the board agrees to spots for the park and ride, anybody that parks past the park and ride, we will have a right to ticket them, and we have that right as a school, right? So that would be the other things that people, the public that are maybe using that may need to know. So
Which would then mean you should limit the number of permits to the number of spaces that you have reserved.
Yes.
Also, to piggyback on the right to search, there are items that are not allowed on school campuses that aren't necessarily illegal out on the street or whatever, but it's illegal to have them on school campuses. And so you would probably have to have a list of, things for people to know that you cannot
Yeah.
bring on a school campus.
Let me discuss this internally with our GM and our permits department. I think that it probably will be a easy process for us, for people to call us, come and get a permit with all of those instructions given to them, and then they can put it on their vehicles, and they know all of the information and liability and everything else.
Further questions or comments?
Can we get a copy of the,
Yes, I've provided it to Thorsten, and
so
I would like to know what are the next steps. If you're going to make a decision and then this needs to go to the board for approval, what are the steps?
I think we, as a committee, decide whether or not we, whether we recommend a yes or a no to the board, and then we can forward that to the board and go from there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm not sure what the timing that they're looking for. I don't think I'm prepared to make a recommendation or not right now. I would like to walk just myself. Like, I'm not, just see where the fences are, visualize it before I feel like I could make a recommendation to the board. And I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what that's going to do to either the CSD or the district.
We hope to be able to do this as soon as possible, obviously, because it will increase our ridership. So,
Well, being this is our last committee meeting, trying to think of
The bus pickups at 7:40? No, 45?
6:45, yes. The area, right now there's a gate. This back area, I don't know if you were able to see on the photo, it's, pretty empty most of the day. And so I'm not sure what else information you need, but it's pretty secure in terms of the fencing that you've done, so.
we typically don't do this, but I would be willing to move this forward to the board without a recommendation. And we can further investigate. The board can look at the information that they've provided. We can discuss it as a board. We can vote on their proposal at that time as a board, or we can table it for, because our board meetings are every 2 weeks, and so we can get a decision made sometime in the next few weeks or a month, where if it is incumbent upon this committee to send a recommendation forward, it's not gonna happen for months.
So basically, you're saying for him to not bring it before this committee, but just bring it before the
Well,
board?
I'm saying that this committee just forwards it, and tell me if you see a problem with that.
We would need an agreement like the pool agreement. We would need something like that to take to the board like we did previously
Right.
at the board where you all had the opportunity to read it and have a discussion.
Right.
I think if we had something like that, as soon as you can get us something like that,
Then we can get it on the agenda for the whole board and just move it forward without a recommendation from this committee.
Okay.
And they-
So if I take the other agreement that we have with you for the swimming and modify that and get it to you for review, and then we can take that to the board.
if this group is okay with that,
Let me take a step back. If I'm the only, like, do you guys feel like you have enough to provide a recommendation, enough information?
I would really like to see a proposal first if we're going to make a recommendation from this committee to the full board. And since we don't have that, I'm comfortable with taking the agreement that staff and CSD come up with.
I'm comfortable
the
with that
full
too.
board.
I just wanted to make sure, I'm like, if
No,
you guys
I-
are all, no, I think this is totally doable and we can recommend it, then I don't want
No,
to be the sole
I-
naysayer,
I feel like we don't,
quite have enough. We
Right.
want the proposal, okay.
and so,
I'm where you are, that I would be willing to take a step back and trust the board to do right by the kids, because I don't have enough information either, and I don't want to hold anything up.
I think that's the
That's
most
where we are.
expedient way, is if staff and CSD staff comes up with an agreement and we take it to the full board, and then we can vote on it if everyone in the board is ready to vote on it, and if not, we can table it. But at least that way we have a meeting every couple of weeks or whatever, and we can get it addressed, hopefully in a timely fashion. If it has to come to this committee, it's gonna be months, because we don't have another meeting set up for,
September.
So what I've heard from you, you had two major issues. One is that you really don't want to open the gate before 6 o'clock because that's a lot of cost to you. And secondly, if we can come up with a permit situation where we can pass on the information to those who want to park over there to let them know about all of your requirements, including having a sticker that they can put on their vehicle, that's what you like. Obviously, the agreement that needs to be executed between us and the school district, we can develop that agreement. But those are the two things that I heard
I
from
think
you.
that's the major questions we had.
Those are the two that we can come up with, that we came up with right now. I have to trust district staff because I'm a construction guy, not an educator. But, okay, so if we did this, we would be giving people the right to park on our parking lot, which means on our grounds. And so if they park and they're there at noon, loitering, I'm not going to use the word loitering, I'm sorry. Do they have the right to be there at noon? Because the intent is they get there in the morning, they drive, they get back in the evening. So essentially, they're not there during school, during educational hours. But am I also, if I voted for this, which I'm not, am I also giving them the right to be there at noon or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, because they could work a half day and come home, and they've got to be able to pick up their car. But how, what is that? And so unfortunately, I don't have all the answers.
So let me respond to that. If we do go through this permit situation, the train leaves in the morning and returns in the evening. So there are no trains in between. So they won't be able to come back during midday.
I think that's a hasty generalization. If I go and I ride it and I get sick, I'm gonna come home and I'm gonna pick up my car.
Yes.
Okay. So saying that they're not gonna, and I'm not saying that we can't do it. I'm saying my job as a facilities committee person and as a board member is to think through that and understand, okay, when this happens, what does that mean before we agree to it? I think obviously I'm in favor of helping the environment. I'm in favor of ride sharing. I'm with Pombo. I don't think that we should take money out of the classroom and put it towards environmentally friendly policies for the community, because our job is to educate children. But if we can do it in a zero, with a zero cost situation, which, I mean, okay, wear and tear on the parking lot, I'm not really including that, in a cost. Yes, it's going to cost money because every time you drive on it, eventually you got to repave it, whatever. I'm talking about actual, fiscal dollars out.
And
So there's all those questions that I can't ask right now because I got to think through it.
And the likelihood is, well, I would hope that when it does become an agendized item on our regular board meeting, that you'll send representatives to answer questions, but I'm fully expecting there will be questions asked that you will have to come back with answers, so there's a good possibility that it won't be voted on the first time it comes before the board. A couple of things that I feel should be addressed somewhere are spills in the parking lot, somebody's gas tank leaks, whatever it happens to be, there has to be something addressing that it is cleaned up and remediated in an appropriate manner. Also, piggybacking on what Trustee Clement said, there should probably be something telling people this parking permit gives you access to the parking lot and to walk from your car to the bus stop. You're not allowed anywhere else on campus.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
What is the time in the evening that they'll be coming back, or what? It's
Right now, the last one is about 7:40, something like that. It's on the second slide.
our staff in the summer will be off at 6. The
They-
custodial staff. So
But the gates will be open, as far as I understand it, until midnight, correct?
no,
During the regular school.
during the school year.
Okay.
So that will be something we have to work around too. If it's going to be 7.
So what time do you close the gate?
The staff will be leaving at 6 p.m., which I'm sure is no way you're going to get back here by 6 p.m.
Yeah, no. So you're gonna close the gate at 6?
Our staff in the summers will be there at 6:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning to high school to 6 p.m.
I mean, think about it. If school isn't in session, and we actually had custodians here until midnight for no reason, we would get hung from the frickin' yard arm. It's too much money. So yeah, there's minimal hours during the summer. That's just the way it is because there's no school in session. One of the reasons I wanted to walk, and I wasn't going to suggest this, was, can we move the gate? And I'm not even suggesting it because I can't visualize
sir.
it, right?
Or no? The only suggestion I would make that is there is a gate by the pool and the gym that could be closed. So the rest of the campus would be closed and that whole
It would open up that whole
parking area would be open.
And
I'm not
see,
saying
I
that we
knew
should
about
do that. I'm just saying that
I knew about that, and that's a bunch more parking spots and a bunch.
then you're
more
opening up the whole parking lot
cars,
wide
and
open.
who's going to monitor that, especially in the summertime? So, like I said, that wasn't a suggestion. I hesitated to even say it.
Well, I didn't. Thor gave me a heads up I could say it, so I wasn't going to say it either.
Anyway, we have some thinking. It's not that we want to say no. It's just I can't recommend. I think we're left with what you suggested, Trustee Pombo.
So if you would get a proposal together, work with our staff to come up with something that works for you and fits into our needs.
I can do that, but this information you gave me was a little bit of a surprise about the gates closing at 6 o'clock.
I was about to tell you, I apologize, I didn't give you the summer hours. I
Yes.
just gave you the school year hours for the gate closure.
Yes.
And that's my fault, and I apologize for that.
No problem.
Sorry.
All right.
Okay, so then I have one question. If we want to close the gates later on, how much will be the cost to have somebody to close the gate?
Your
About
$16,000 and change. It'd be 2 hours overtime.
2 hours overtime.
So
Here's 16,000 and
16.
change.
1687, I think.
Well, sorry, that's for the whole year.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that is the whole year. So it'd be 3 months of that. So
3 months.
where's my math? Thank you. 300 times, how many weeks is that? How many weeks is the summer?
10.
Like 12 weeks.
So it's about $3,500.
Okay.
We could get you an exact, that's a estimate. We could get you the exact number.
If you can give me the exact number for the morning and the evening until 8 p.m., then I can,
Okay, 3712 would be the evening number. Okay. You want the number for the morning time as well, the 4:45 to 6, or the 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock number?
yes, actually it would be 4:30.
4:30 opening?
Yes.
Okay, so that'd be an hour and a half. So we'll get you the exact numbers for that,
Okay,
so that you have them in writing.
okay, that will be good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Can I say one more thing?
Certainly.
I wanted to publicly thank you for the red curbs around our schools, making our schools safer.
Absolutely.
We had a safety meeting yesterday, and we showed the committee all the red curvature that CSD had painted around our schools, and we really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much.
Item B, banner request process. I think we have some individuals from the audience who would like to speak to this.
Hi, my name is Liz Grandy. I'm the current treasurer for the Athletic Booster Board at the high school. I was part of the inaugural board back before the high school opened, along with Mr. Clements and one or two other people that
It was just
started this
I
organization
was just a
from.
lowly member back then.
Yes. Yes. So we started this organization from scratch. And one of our biggest fundraisers to get us money quickly, and a good portion of money, was the sale of the banners to be placed at the high school. And so that brought in a lot of money for us for that year. This hasn't been done pretty much or pushed the last couple years, but I know the board proved it on the stipulation that we didn't place them in front of the administration building, and that we got the banners, the proofs for them pre-approved. So, as you know, we're in the process of paying for a very expensive screen in the gymnasium, and our bank account is back down, so we would like to really push this again and want to know if there's changes in stipulations or any additions that we need to do to get this going.
Are you asking me?
All.
Do you know when the board approved the banners?
It actually
couldn't
is on
find it.
our fundraiser list every year. The banner advertising fundraiser.
Yeah, I was asking when it was approved by the board. That's all I was.
I
2014,
can't give you a
15?
date, but I do remember
A year?
a discussion. It was maybe I think it was the first year I was on the board. So 2000, and that was December or November of 2014. So maybe early 2015. And the board discussed, and I wasn't on the facilities committee at the time, so that discussion would have been a board discussion. And we discussed the fact that there were certain places that they couldn't, that the Booster Club could not sell banner space, and that all banners had to be the same size. That I believe it was then President President Balzerini,
Yeah.
that said, we don't want some small, some big, some medium. You want uniformity of size. And, but I do not remember what the size was. I do not remember what the locations were. I just remember that was a discussion. And so the boosters, my recollection is the boosters did have approval to sell space in certain locations, certain size banners, and that anything that was going to go on the banner on a fence had to be approved by district staff. The actual artwork that was proposed had to be approved by district staff.
And it was actually before this form actually came out, because it was the original form that didn't even list banners on there. It just listed flyers, and we had to cross out flyers and put banners. And then this came out when they said, it has to be this size. So it was even before this form came out that we got the go-ahead.
That's
But that
my
was the
recollection.
original
I could go
time.
back and watch videos if I needed to, but
No, I can. The documents that I have is the banner authorization form and then our administrative regulation. So that's the information that I have for the banners. So I couldn't find any other documents or documentation related to selling space with banners.
I understand that there was an application submitted and it didn't meet board policy or administrative regulations or facility procedures. Do you know what it didn't meet?
So the information was given to me that there was a fundraiser going on that involved the sales of banner space. And my understanding was that we don't have a policy to sell banner space at our schools, either by AR or by our banner authorization form, which doesn't have any of that information for sales of fundraiser sales of banner space on our fences. So that is, I responded to the sports boosters, to Pebble, saying this is our AR and this is our authorization form. I don't have any information related to sales of space on our fences or marquees or anything like that or anything else. So,
and it's possible that it never got formalized in the policies correctly. I mean, I can tell you that I was treasurer of the athletic boosters at the time, so I know that we were. So, I know that the board has discussed it, and if we didn't get it formalized in the proper way, then it's something that we need to do.
Yeah, because we would have to send in our completed sale form for the banners, and then we would have to fill this out and send it in along with the proof of the banner. So all three of those
all those
things we would
documents
have
went
to,
in as a package?
yeah.
And I should know this, but I've looked at dozens, if not hundreds, of fundraiser proposals this year. Did the athletic boosters, was that one of their requests this year?
It's on our approved list.
Okay. So from your perspective, it's an approved fundraiser. We just have to figure
Right,
out.
and that's why we went ahead and started on it, and we already have eight advertisers willing and ready to purchase.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Approved, the high school's approved fundraiser list It's on the high school's approved fundraiser list that comes
Boosters,
to the,
yeah, the boosters
'cause
approved.
I looked and there's nothing there for banners.
Do you have the list?
We get like the schools send us their fundraisers and we have a Google Doc that we track fundraisers. And I haven't seen one for,
So that was in your fundraisers for the 18-19
the
school year?
Okay.
Yeah, we get it approved every year, it's just we haven't
Actually
got,
sold any.
you know,
Pursued
been
that.
on this the last couple of years, so.
I'll double check.
And this is not what you're here about exactly, but I understand that there is the desire to put advertising on the large screen that will go up. So
Yes,
that's,
so that's my next question.
that's something that
Yeah,
I think needs to be addressed and memorialized in
yeah.
policy, procedure. So that is something that we will have to work on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz and Stephanie.
So to clarify, am I getting direction to pursue procedure or policy on the advertising on the large screen? Either a marquee or a screen in the gym or whatever the case? That's the direction
Yes,
that's
and,
what you're giving me.
yes, and
Okay.
I would also like to explore and try to make our board policy or AR or facility procedure align with allowing the sports boosters, athletic boosters to sell banners, but they will have to, unless we change the banner policy, they will have to fall within the policy. And one thing that Trustee Clements didn't mention is they're not allowed on the fence on Mustang alongside on Central in front of the school, but also on Mustang in front of the football field.
What I said was I knew that there were places that the board said no.
Yeah, at that
couldn't
time it
recall
was,
which
we couldn't
places.
block the administration building. So we understand,
I thought we had put both,
we didn't. But,
thought we had put both of those stipulations in at the same time, that we allowed them around the parking lot and potentially on the track fences, but not the fence that, because the feeling of the board was we didn't want to block the view of
School
of
itself.
the field or the school itself, the parking lot, if it blocks the view of people's cars,
yeah.
wasn't a.
That's what we're looking more for, you know, the athletic fields, fences, because all the other schools do it.
Right.
They have banners all around their baseball field and football field and such. These are just for small businesses.
In, well, there's an existing banner policy for nonprofits, and the process for that is you go, I believe that's also in civic permits, is that correct? You fill out the form, you say the location, how long you want to leave your banner up. A picture or a true depiction of your banner has to be submitted to the district for approval, because we don't want inappropriate stuff on the fences or advertising things that shouldn't be associated with the school district or those sorts of things. But
I'm sorry, I was just corrected. It's not through civic permits. It's a banner form that we have on our website,
But-
and you can also pick up from the receptionist.
I think if you go on the district website and click on the Forms tab, that's one of the forms that comes up, correct? Does staff have any questions, clarification, questions of the sports boosters as to what they're asking for? Okay. Any more discussion?
I'm so confused. I guess I wasn't privy to some things. So, Liz, you were denied the ability for the fundraiser. Were you denied something? Oh,
Just question.
oh,
If it had been approved, and it was on our approval list, but I think, just wanted to go over clarification of it more, right?
I responded because I hadn't seen the fundraiser or a banner authorization form for those items. So I sent an email to Pebble about it. That's the genesis.
Or, I'm wondering if that maybe because it was discussed so long ago, prior to there being two different forms, that maybe they thought, or maybe there was a misunderstanding that it could be approved in-house at the high school, because on the Google Doc where we track the fundraisers, we do not have this particular fundraiser where it goes through our process that we show the board.
I'll follow up with them and
It might be,
we'll
it might be it was
we'll
approved.
figure out where the missing links are.
Yeah, it may have just fallen through the cracks somewhere along the
Yeah.
pipeline.
I'll get it worked.
Yes.
It's not about the banners, but about the advertising, because like Pebble said, we spent about $95,300 this year of our money for teams and for the screen, so we're really trying to pick up our revenue. And can you give us a general timeline, how long it would take to figure out the screen ad stuff?
You asking me? I don't write policy.
I don't feel like it would probably take an inordinate amount of time, but it does have to be, if it's a board policy, it will have to be constructed and reviewed by the policy committee and then come forward to the board for an approval, right?
Yeah, well, Alvina just pointed out, oh, come on, can you open this back up? That our board policy of the AR, the board policy 1325 does mention, what do they define it as? Banners that, thank you for making it bigger. It says that the superintendent designee may approve paid advertisement on school property, including but not limited to billboard advertisements and scoreboards, advertisements, paid advertisements, school-sponsored publications like yearbooks, announcements, and other school communications is in the BP.
So then, if I'm understanding you correctly, this is something that could be remedied in a short time by decree of the superintendent, and then if we feel the need to
Memorialize.
construct a board policy addressing it directly, we can do that in the meantime.
I think that in a general sense, the board policy addresses it. Our authorization form that we have and our process that we have does not, which is why I couldn't find anything on it, on any of our forms or procedures. That's not a very good answer.
Well,
But
I think I understand the answer, and I think you were saying that my stumbling my stumbling question, you're answering it in the affirmative. The superintendent could authorize the sale of advertising through the athletic boosters, and if we want to put a policy that that more directly addresses it in
Yeah,
in
because
the handbook, we can do that, but it could be addressed before there's an actual policy or procedure or a new policy or procedure in the handbook.
Yeah, it doesn't say, the board policy doesn't delineate into banners. The top line does read, the governing board desires to promote positive relationships between schools and the community in order to enhance community support and involvement in district schools. The super designee may approve, and then there's a list, promotional materials,
Banner. Promotional
paid
material.
advertisement, school
Banner, paid
property.
advertisement.
I'm just, that's what it says, so.
There are times where a policy doesn't cover something.
Yeah.
And district staff has to essentially make the decision, and then, and in this case, I think there's enough support, because I know as a board member and as a past treasurer of the boosters, that this has been approved subject to certain constraints: location, size, content, right? And so what I'm as one member of the committee is asking is, district staff, I get that there's not a specific policy, we made a mistake and we didn't get it in there, but can we use that policy and approve, and providing what they're asking for meets the size, the location, and the content requirements in your judgment, in district staff's judgment, can we do that concentrically with, or at the same time as, creating the board policy? That way, we're not penalizing the boosters who have donated the screen to the district and have worked hard. We're not penalizing them. And the reason that I'm sensitive to this is, when we opened the boosters, I had sold to all the home builders, I had sold banners, and it took so long to get it approved that I lost 5. They said, no, because it took us months to get through the process. And they've already, and once again, they find themselves in a situation where, in good faith, they sold what I promise this committee was approved by the board. It was. And I really would hate them to lose their advertising like we did when we first opened the boosters, just because we didn't get paperwork done.
Yes, we can fill in the gaps. We would have to get the fundraiser approved, which that hasn't gone to board yet, which is a requisite part of the process. And we would need the banner authorization form done up.
And they would fill out the banner authorization form.
Well, before we have that, we have to have a fundraiser approved by the board.
Well, no, they can fill out they can fill out the form and provide it, and we can approve. We can put that the request for the fundraiser on the next agenda, right? Or we can ask for it to be on the next agenda.
They go to every agenda. You bet. Fundraiser requests, yes.
So the soonest, it looks like the soonest that this can be acted on is the next board meeting, right? Is what we're saying?
What's the date? What's the cutoff date for? So it's next Wednesday.
Can we have I know you probably already sent your request to Ben, breakdown in communication. Can you send the request in again and fill out the forms, the banner request?
Banner authorization form.
Banner authorization form by next Wednesday.
Do we send it to Ben again, or do we just send it directly to you, Thor?
All fundraiser requests go through the site principal. So just send it to Ben.
But you might remind him that he needs to forward it to the district office.
Is that a fair? Is that a fair compromise?
I'm just trying to follow the rules, that's all. So whatever I'm directed by the board, I'm down with. So.
And
Well, have you sold anything on the screen yet? Okay. I am most concerned about you losing fundraising that you've already gotten approved, like that you've already gotten a sale and you lose the money like we did when we first when we first started the boosters. I'm most sensitive to that situation because I know what that feels like.
So with this, do we want to address the screen advertising as well? Or is that, because we're not going to have another meeting of facilities
Right.
before they're going to want to start using, because it's going to be up and in place in July, I believe.
Coming up, so as soon as school closes, we install the wiring, and then the screen is already getting made. It's 2 weeks more, and it'll be done.
My attitude on the screen advertising is the three components of banner advertising is location, size, and content. Location and size is done. The only thing that is content, and that's the same as a banner, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm comfortable as a committee saying, you know what? Whatever content you're willing to allow on the fence, you can allow on the screen.
Yeah, I think we can address it at the same time as far as a board policy or facilities procedure. And I believe that according to the current board policy, the superintendent can approve whatever they want to put on the screen as is. And if we want to memorialize something in either board policy or facilities procedure, we can do that. And
We could simplify and use the same banner form with a different bullet point. Instead of the 3x5 and 4x6 finished, we could insert language down below for the screen, and then there's just one form, one place, making it easier for everybody.
And if essentially if the image is the same on the fence as it is on the screen, they can check both boxes, right? If
You could have a different box check up here.
And then you guys can sell a banner for one price and a screenshot for one price and both for somewhere in between.
bundle deal.
That would be an important part of,
Yeah, I have, so 4 or 5 of us are gonna figure it out, because if someone leaves, we don't want them people to hang.
We have IT support for that as well.
do you have,
Are you going to ask me, do I have enough information?
yes, sir.
I have lots of information.
I know you have lots of information. Is it enough?
Yeah, I just have to circle back with the fundraiser piece and the paperwork piece, and
We'll get that to you tomorrow.
okay.
Send that out tonight to Ben, and then he's pretty good about it.
Most of the time, he's pretty good.
Yeah, it's busy right now, so we get it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So historically, you attach your banner to the banner form, right?
Or we send a PDF.
Of it, so like of all of them or something, or
Well, we fill this out per banner.
per banner? Great.
And then PDF of that banner.
Okay.
So I think we got that figured out, I hope. Are you ready to move on, or?
I am always ready.
Item C, civic permits existing vendor use update. I'm not even sure what that means. But I'm sure I'll get a staff report.
Yes, sir. You ready for a staff report?
I am.
Okay. Jimmy Aria and I met
Good night, ladies.
this
Thank you.
afternoon with current users of fields and gyms for Lammersville Unified. We discussed this at a previous facilities meeting and at a previous board meeting. We talked about the order of operations for renting of our facilities. And today we met, previously we indicated that we would have a meeting and speak with all of our user groups and talk about the seniority process. Most senior getting rights to the fields that they have used previously on a previous date in previous years. This was all spurred by some frustration that occurred this year and some use of fields by different groups and saying that, well, we've been using this field forever, why did it go to another group? And in order to have a fair process, we discussed it here, and then this afternoon, and the board approved our process, and then this afternoon, Jimmy and I met with a variety of basketball, soccer, football, youth organizations. They are providing us, by tomorrow, they're providing us their desired field use or gym use for the summer and the fall. And what staff will do is we'll go back and look at the origins of these organizations with Lambertsville Unified School District, ensure that they're in good standing, and affirm the field use that they've had historically, and then give them the opportunity to register early, in essence, before the release of the entire facilities to the general public, so that the groups in good standing and have historically used our facilities have access to those facilities on an ongoing basis. So that we'll have that information tomorrow, and then staff will meet and find origin dates, and then communicate with those groups which fields and they have access to, and when. They'll do the normal paperwork. They'll go through civic permits like they normally do. Nothing else changes. We're just trying to add some structure to the process. Is that about right, Jimmy?
Yes, sir.
And I just want to report to this group that we had that meeting today because we discussed it at a previous meeting. The other thing that was discussed today at the meeting was seniority use of fields, and then the potential for use of a separate field. So, for example, I have used Wickland Field since 2001, and I want to use those fields again like I always do this summer, and I put in a request into civic permits early because I have early access because of the history of my use of the facilities. I get that facility. Well, if I want to grab two more facilities that I haven't historically acquired or used, my seniority doesn't apply to that on June 1st or whatever the date is for June 3rd, sorry, or on June 3rd or whatever the future date may be to access the facilities on a first come, first served basis. That's when the individuals would add that item along with everybody else who wants access to our facilities. I believe that is what we all agreed to and have discussed. Anything else from the meeting today? I will say that the groups tonight were very student-centered. They were very positive for supporting our kids, and more than one group said we need to work together, you know, because it's for our kids and our community. Those were the words that I heard, and that was very, that was nice to hear. So.
Can you come to the, so that our huge viewing audience can hear what you're...
So, one, thank you very much. I am brand new here. We started our organization in July, so I was honored to be able to be a part of that group because I don't have seniority. So, thank you for inviting us. I have one concern on the seniority thing, and I was pretty vocal today, but it didn't really dawn on me until a little bit later how much this impacts us, and I don't even know that it will impact us, but I did want to at least speak my mind on the subject because it is for our children. Not having seniority, not being here 11 years, 10 years, but being larger than the other groups so quickly, doesn't make me the most popular person in town, for one, but it also it scares me a little bit going forward because it impacts our growth, it impacts our business plan, it impacts our teaching plan, our coaches that we just hired. You know, we brought in new coaches because we anticipate growth. We have commitments from new kids coming in, and not being 100% certain how the new facilities work. And it's always kind of been up for grabs. You got to get on there at 8 a.m. when it opens and pray for the best. But I feel that the seniority part kind of, it's not quite fair, only because I don't know that we would have been able to grow so quickly if the community groups in the area who've been here for 11 years were maintaining consistently a quality program for the children. I mean, you could look at our program structure, and all of our kids are from Mountain House, but they are all from different groups that they used to participate in. And they came over, and we've retained them now for a third season. So I feel like the seniority is going to push us to where we're going to have to decline children and force them back to a program that they might have left because they weren't getting what they needed. And I work with a bunch of other districts as well, and they have a kind of a different process. And I know it's probably too late to implement this year, but maybe for future use. They ask up front, not just for our facilities, our facility dates, they ask us for how many students in our district are in your program. And the measurement is not seniority. The measurement is how many students are you serving in our school district. That's 1. 2 is seniority. 3 is, you know, they have their whole tier system. And I would really like to see something like that as a first, right? Because if I'm got 70% of these children in my program, but I haven't been here 10 years, well, that really kind of messes up the program for us going forward. You know, if a big if here, we don't get enough gym time. So maybe a lottery system or something, I don't know, just something to where it's fair, because I would hope a new program comes in and really 4 years from now when maybe I'm slacking off, the new program comes in, it gets me back on my toes, because I've watched these other organizations really ramp up and start doing great things for their kids, going different places, bringing in trainers, you know, finding outside programs to work with their kids. Like, everybody's kind of stepping it up because we're kind of pushing everybody to, you know, do better by the kids so they can keep their kids. And so I'm not afraid of that competition, but I don't want to also lose, this is Lisa, my operations manager, I don't want to lose what we've built because I'm new. Everybody in my organization, they've lived here and been in these programs for many, many years.
So if I could speak to that for a moment, I've been in the community since 2008. And so my son started kindergarten here, and we actually were Wolverines and started with MHYB through Wolverines. Now that my son is in high school, just before that, we were looking for something different than what the Wolverines could offer my son, who wants to play competitively and play in college, and we hope and pray NBA. But let's keep it where we are now. We were looking for a club here in this area that could give us that. And that's just not what we could get here. So upon her moving to the area, so she lives here now. She's not a transplant, she lives here. We started this together in this area. She was already successful in the South Bay. And I helped with that because we needed more for those students who wanted to play competitively. She has taken my child to Florida. She has taken my child to Vegas. He is getting those college looks that we would not have gotten with the clubs that are here right now. They're amazing clubs. And we refer children to them when they're looking for something different. So all we're asking is that it's not necessarily the time in which we've been operating, it's what we are offering that is different. It's not that it's better, but it's different depending on what certain children need and their parents are looking for. And we've grown. We've grown to, what are we, 8 teams and now 11, and then 2 girls teams that are thriving. And these children are getting those college looks. So, you know, it may not be something we can change right now, but we're just saying if you guys can think about a way that it could be a little bit more fair for everyone because
And
we're
again, we don't
using the
even
gym
know what you
time.
guys are gonna do in the back room when you decide. It's just, we're really nervous because we're not, you know, we're new.
And if you
so-
look at our usage, we actually may be using the gym time more than some of these clubs
But
that have been here a long
That's part of the problem
time.
too, is like some of the clubs couldn't get gym time because we had too much gym time. And so I think that's,
So how do we make that fair? How do we do that? We're open to it. We just want to know, how do we do that?
So I'm not sure that I want to make sure I understand the situation. The situation is that you've been around, so you're,
I've only been here since July, but the families and the coaches and the board of.
I'm talking about your
The
organization.
organization.
Yes.
Your organization is it that you're already in the, because there's two different
Windows?
right? There's they've been around, you know, they've already been around their established organization and they get the earlier window, and you're in that, but you don't have the priority, or you're not in that.
We were invited to the priority meeting today to turn in our times, but at the meeting, we were told that it's based first off seniority, but there's no cap. And that was something Andy Sue brought up, was there was no cap
For those
for,
seniority
like,
people.
those people, like, maybe they could. So it's gonna be, you know, Aria and Jimmy, I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be fair as can be, but I just wanted to, I'm afraid that because there's no cap and because we're not seniority, we might lose the time that.
There's no cap on what?
Certainly.
You know, I don't appreciate backroom and fair in the way you used it with the staff that works here in
I
Lambertville.
didn't mean it in a bad
Hey,
way.
well, it came off that way,
You guys have to,
and I don't appreciate it. It's not a backroom deal.
that's not what I meant.
We did everything up front, and we met with people up front and told them exactly what we were going to do today.
It's the wrong choice of words, Thor. That's not what I
Okay.
meant. I meant you guys have to take that is absolutely not what I meant at all. I meant you
Okay.
guys have to take all of these requests into the back room and figure out how to, you know, process them based on the
We have a
policies the
process for
board
that already.
What's up?
We have a process for that already. It's not subjective.
Yeah, no, nobody's saying it's subjective. They're just saying that today, what we were told, and maybe we're wrong, maybe we're reading too much into it, and that's why I'm here, because I didn't ask enough questions when the first time I came and introduced myself to the board, and I said, hi, I'm new here. You know, I don't know if you remember, came and said, I'm new here. We want to help the community. You know, I came and introduced myself to you guys. It has been a very rough road for us. We've been successful despite it, but we've had a lot of issues at the high school with the community. And so I'm trying to get answers to questions that I didn't have before so I can help our kids. My son's in the program too. And I'm not here saying it's a backroom deal. What I am here saying is we're afraid that we've bit off more than we can chew this season if it's going to be based on seniority, because there are programs in the area that are going to be able to rent before us that could lock us out because they feel that's what we did. And we didn't. We just really needed the use. And so I'm afraid of this, the word seniority is what I'm saying.
When you said there's no cap, and
I'm confused.
I'm confused about what you mean by there's no cap.
As to what can be
Yeah, because,
requested.
I mean, if you get first, right, because you've been here longer, you can rent, you know, 3 schools
That was just,
It's not,
that was just addressed
a week.
at the beginning of this part of the meeting, was that just because you have seniority at Wickland doesn't mean you can go to Cuesta and bump somebody with that seniority.
Right.
It's,
But you can take up all the time at Wickland. And we had a hard time booking in the beginning. And I will say Aria's great. You know, she always finds solutions for everybody. But we struggled in the beginning. Now we know the process. We're just afraid of the word seniority and what that means because we don't have any at all.
well, clearly you do, or you wouldn't have been invited to the meeting earlier today.
I don't know if that was by default or not.
Well, there are other people who have not been able to submit anything yet because they don't have seniority. So clearly you have seniority, and to be perfectly frank with you, the school district, our facilities are first and foremost for our students.
Right?
We don't have enough facilities to accommodate everyone in the community for all their requests, and that's unfortunate, but that's how it is, because we don't build facilities for the community, we build facilities for our students. And I think this committee, the school board, and our staff bend over backwards to be fair and equitable to
And
everyone.
we have not experienced anything other than fair. No, that's not that fair part. I
And-
think you guys will do a really great job on that part. My only concern is the seniority being the first.
I just don't think you can please everybody because, okay, but the people that have been here a really long time, like Andy Sue, take away their seniority and then it's not fair to them either. I think we bent over backwards in a couple meetings to figure out something that would not just be equitable to somebody in your situation, but to everybody at large. We're not going to be able to please everybody, but hopefully the solution we came up with pleased enough
And
and kind of try to touch on every situation we could.
Yeah, and we're in this process, we're all very new because they were coaches or moms, So I don't know where to go to even ask these questions
Well, if-
besides here. Like, I
if-
don't know how to navigate that process.
if we remove the seniority process, you would be at the mercy of sitting in front of your computer at whatever time the window opens and hoping that you get in on the facility you want before someone else. With the process we've put in place, you've been allowed to come in and say, I want these. And those other people who are going to be sitting at their computer when the next window opens are not going to have access to those because you've been granted access
think
through
that
seniority. So
Question
I'm
I
not
have is
quite
the word
sure.
Seniority, because can they come in and monopolize the time? That's where we didn't quite get the right answer. That's, I think, my concern.
Can I-
Questions that Ori
Certainly.
can answer? Or?
That was, Jimmy addressed that at our meeting. He said very explicitly to everybody, you can't lock out whole weeks and blocks of time where you're trying to lock out just in case you need it and then cancel. I don't know if you recall, he talked about
No, I
people
kinda
trying to block out too much time and then trying to cancel later on when they realize they don't need the time. That's not fair to everybody else.
And I can say that this committee and along with the school board will not look favorably upon groups who try to monopolize
Right.
facilities in case they might need them, or punitively against other groups that will not be looked at
So
favorably.
if I can provide some suggestion and clarity, the purpose of this committee is to hear questions, comments, and make recommendations to the board as to policy changes that need to be made, that we think should be made. As it relates to this, to the reservation period underway, the policy that's been approved is the best that we could do for this one. So I hear your concerns.
And I'm
Unfortunately,
not even asking for change for this because we don't know what it looks like.
I understand.
yet.
I understand. So, as it relates to your nervousness about being locked out this time, the appropriate thing to do is to talk to district staff because they're monitoring this. They don't want to see Colin Clements tiddlywinks reserve everything and then not use it, right? And, because I wasn't going to mention any specific Little League or flag football or anything like that.
Actually, I would like to see that. Can you?
I know. And,
fun.
so
Perhaps the Palm
as it
Beach
relates
taking
to solving your problem right now, which is what you're stressed out about right now, this committee isn't, we cannot react that quickly to change, we're going to suspend the priority. We worked really hard to try to create the most fair policy and procedure that we could create, knowing that there's no way to guarantee, to make it fit everyone. To give you a little bit of, the opposite side of the coin, we had situations before we had priority where a long-standing, very valued program, the person was sick and wasn't in for the first 3 days. It was in the hospital. in for the first 3 days. They come out after 3 days, and even though they've had the program for years, they can't reserve anything because it's all gone. And we said, wow, that's kind of crummy that we should give the individuals and organizations like Little League and flag football and now you, we should give them a window, right? And we said we should tip our hat to these organizations that have been serving the community for a long time. I hear what you're saying about, gee, they're coming to us, so we're serving them better. Unfortunately, or we must be serving them better because they're kind of leaving as kind of.
Well, no, that's
wait,
not
let me finish. We can't really draw that conclusion here, and I'm sorry, I can't say, well, yeah, they're better than flag football, so I'm going to reserve more for them. And I'm sorry, I literally, that's that, and we came up with the fairest policy that we can, that we could. We're not saying that we will never change it for the future, but I don't think it's going to get changed for this window.
Yeah, and
We understand
we're
that.
just saying, so we have parents that we have to answer to, that we have a meeting.
So do we.
They, yeah, that they, I am the mouthpiece, but I have a whole list of questions that I need to be able to go back with because we already we're short on gym time last time, and so we have to plan, and so I need to exhaust the questions and understand the answers. So even if you addressed it in the previous meeting, I did not fully understand that, and that is why we still had the question about the seniority rights. So thank you for taking the time to explain that a little bit more. I don't expect because, we think our program is better that somebody else should, not get their seniority. I'm just saying I don't want it to ruin what we've established because we've lost access. That's my concern, and that's our family's concerns too. So I had to come ask again. I literally sat in the parking lot over there like, I don't know if I should ask that again. I don't know, but my families and my board still had questions. A lot of them couldn't be here tonight because the Warriors game is on, but here I am asking the question.
But I just want to be clear. We're not saying we're better. We were just saying we were offering something different. That's all. Not better. Because my son was a Wolverine for 8-9 years. So not better. We send children to them. We have nothing against the Wolverines. We hated to leave actually, but we just needed something different. So not better. That is absolutely not what I meant. They taught him the fundamentals. So that's not what I meant at all. Not better.
Thank you, ladies.
Fair enough.
It's different.
I understand.
It's
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. We
Thank you very
appreciate your
much.
time.
What else we can get? I don't know. Thank you so much.
So some of the stuff works itself out through attrition, right? If one group's numbers are rising and this is going this way, they're going to need less space, right? They're not going to be able to sustain. So for a period of time, it works itself out slowly, but it will work itself out.
All right, very well.
And give our system a chance to
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
So all of my assessment is that all of the leaders are going to reserve based on what they think their registration is going to be.
Of course.
Because and if you've been here for 8 years, you're like, okay, I had, every year I have 30 more than I did the year before, and if they don't get that registration, they're going to have to give up some of their either pay for it for nothing, which
They can't
nobody's
afford
going
to
to want to do,
Yeah.
or give them up.
Yeah. That's my point.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Moving on. Item 6, action items. Consider use facility fees. West Valley disposal hauling fees for material at Mountain House High School baseball fields, $24,297.08. Staff report?
So one of the things that we found from the baseball redo is they removed 160 yards of material, which we have to pay for disposal of after
And the
the
spoils off haul was not included in the budget,
in the proposal. The haul off was not included in the proposal.
I don't think it was going to be that much either.
Well, we didn't realize how much material they were going to have to remove to make everything right. They removed quite a lot of material, which is why that field looks the way it looks right now.
Could you give me those figures again?
160 yards. It was 10 yards per bin, and we had 16 haul-offs.
So was it, clarifying question, was this work already done, and what we are considering is if we will use facilities
Yes.
fees to pay for it?
Yes, sir.
Then I won't waste your time by asking if there are not other means of disposal to be investigated.
What is?
We looked at
oh,
putting
and-
it, we looked at putting it at the Cordes lot across the street, but decided that was not a good idea because of all the environmental stuff for the new school. We shot that down pretty quick, but
Anyway, the only reason I asked, and it's, the ship has sailed, but I know the developers haul out truckload after truckload of dirt, and they typically find ranches or places around, people filling in swimming pools, those sorts of things to get rid of it. And in the future, if we have material to get rid of, it might be something to look into.
Got it.
All right.
fair enough.
So I apologize for interrupting your staff report.
Oh, no, it's your prerogative. So the amount is $24,297.08. If this is approved by this group, the remaining balance in our facilities use fund would be $132,431.30. So that's the ask.
Well, it is what we needed to do. That work, unlike some of the other things that we have sent up to the board, that particular one is about facilities. It is a facility that we have available for use, and it is work that was done on that facility.
Seems like the almost like part of what we had already agreed, you know, an add-on to something we already thought we ought to do.
And to
in the
be
first place.
honest, if we approve it as an expenditure and send it to the board can always say, no, let's pay for it from somewhere else, which
Leaves us more money.
is fine.
Leaves-
too.
It's a win-win. I agree.
Send it.
So I think you have consensus to,
Thank you.
thank you. Item 7, future agenda topics and meeting date.
That was on the calendar. The next meeting date is on the.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, so, thank you for reminding me. Jen and I were talking about, I think last time we showed pictures of facility upgrades that we had done and the results. And I think at least maybe every other meeting, we could have a item that we do that, where we show kind of facilities, what's happened, or even future, like the fence issue that we've talked about at Lammersville, even maybe show pictures of need and why, and then the results of maybe every other
Before and
meeting.
after.
Well, sure, exactly, because I think that it's important for the community and for us to see what we've gotten done
Are you talking about at the facilities meetings or at the board meeting?
at these meetings where,
Because I would like to carry that a bit further and perhaps in Jimmy's facility reports to the board, put whatever we've seen here up there, you know, this is this was the fence at Lammersville, it was replaced, here's what we have now, that's where the facility, you know, monies are going, or that's, you know, whatever.
we were trying to figure out the name for it, because we were bouncing back and forth trying to figure out a name for that part of the meeting. So we both agreed, let's take it to the committee. It's their committee. What do they want to call it? So I'm asking you, what do you want to call that portion of and I guess we'll call it the same thing at board meetings. Facility showcase, or
How about Pombo Corner?
Yeah, there you go.
read stories to us?
Don't you have your name on enough stuff around here?
Oh. Here, let me pull that out.
Well, I was here before all y'all.
You were here.
was.
I'll leave it alone.
They built Mountain House in my neighborhood.
In your hood? All right. Give me that again.
Weren't you here before dirt?
Oh,
Well, I remember when they built the hills.
Ay, ay, ay.
I don't know, does anybody have any better recommendation? Not than
Thor
mine, than
suggests
Thor's.
Facility showcase.
Facility showcase, what's wrong with that? I think it sounds good. We can always change it later. It's late.
Facility show and tell. That's
No.
less formal.
I don't like that.
How about,
I don't either. I like
Showcase
showcase.
how about just something simple like facility fee expenditures?
I like showcase better.
I'm fine with whatever, since you guys shot down my idea.
I'm still stuck on Pombo's name on everything.
Combo Parkway.
Okay, so what do you guys want? Facility use
Facility upgrade update.
upgrade update. That kind of rolls off the tongue. Yes, it would. That's a great plan.
In parentheses, show and tell.
Okay. Please.
So next year's meetings are September 26th, December 19th, February 6th, and May 14th.
Where is that?
Where is it? It's on the,
The board packet.
in the board packet from last night. If you want to.
12/19, 2/6, and 5/14.
Oh, you guys approved the schedule last night. Okay, I can look there. All right.
Info and discussion item,
Does anyone have any ideas or suggestions for future agenda topics?
So far away.
I always like to just wait and call Thor like 15 minutes before the deadline. And
You've never done 15 minutes. 16 minutes, maybe.
yes,
Mm.
anything further anyone wants to approach before we call it a night? I'm pulling the plug on this at 8:48-ish.